I'm sure that everyone remembers the King of the Hill episode Pigmalion. This particular episode had originally been produced for season 5 as a Halloween special, as evidenced by its production code 5ABE, but it was pushed back to season 7 due to its dark and too disturbing content. Even when it was first aired in 2003, it was banned outright for many years afterwards because of how it ended. For those of you who are unaware, while on a moving conveyor belt, in the episode's antagonist Trip Larson was momentarily given a shock to the head, which seems to cure his schizophrenia. The scene then cuts back to Peggy and Luann, while he is mutilated off screen. Now here's where it gets interesting. According to the urban legend, in the original airing of the episode, you could briefly see Trip's bloody mutilated corpse hanging off of a hook in the background while Peggy and Luann rejoice over their little victory. However, no copy of this ending seems to exist anywhere, not even on the internet. That's where I come in. I asked a couple of friends to sleuth around, looking for any evidence of the original airing that might have existed at one point. For days on end, they would hound Mike Judge and the other people had worked on King of the Hill, asking if there was any changes that they needed to make to after the original broadcast in 2003. Stormy and Justin, yes, those are my friends' names, have told me whenever they brought up the original ending to Pigmalion, the crew members would either desperately try to change the subject in attempt to avoid answering the question, or just hang up on them without any hesitation. Frankly, I would found that to be quite odd, so we decided to take a little trip to the Scarnamentio just to see if we can get some answers from there. When we made it to Scarmento, we made sure to ask everyone around if they had seen the original ending of the episode The King of the Hill that had been banned for years. No one had seemed to know what we were talking about. All throughout our investigation seemed fruitless. At least we thought so, until we met the one man that would blow this case wide open. For transparency reasons, we will call him Todd. He was in his late 20s, a bit overweight, wore big round glasses that seemed too big for his head, and he looked like he hadn't bathed in years. We asked Todd if he knew anything about the original airing of Pigmalion and how the ending went. He told us that yes, and that he'd seen the episode when it first aired. He could tell us about how that episode ended. It was really fucked up, man, he said. I had never seen anything like it, but when Trip was on that conveyor belt and saw the spike coming down, it was all over for him. Right after we saw it, it cut to a scene of the conveyor belt being splashed with lots of blood, but only for a few seconds. What happened next? I asked him curiously. Well, it then cut to Peggy and Luann getting sprayed with blood, like someone was pounding a human corpse with a meat tenderizer, and blood splattered was landing very in which way. When I saw it, it all remained of Trip what fell onto the conveyor belt onto the floor. His remains were drawn with a little more detail than usual, almost as if they were traced from a crime scene photo or something. Are you sure about that? Pretty sure. Anyway, after Peggy and Luann had their talk, the episode cut to Trip's mangled body one more time, before going to the credits. It was so jarring to see what it looked like, a rotoscoped pile of human remains on the floor, only to play upbeat music over the credits as usual. Stormy couldn't help but gasp at this. This was just so incredible to listen to. Jesus, I feel sorry for you, you poor soul, she told Todd. Do you have the VHS tape of the ending, or something, or no? Sure, but I must warn you, it's seen better days. He left us for a minute to find the tape, and while we waited, we thought to ourselves, this is it, the moment of truth. This will confirm once and for all that he was telling the truth. He came back a moment later with the tape in his hands. Well, guys, here it is, he announced it to us, the tape you've been asking for. Cool, I said, can we watch it now? Sure. We started watching the tape. Brief parts of it, we saw Todd's fast forward through the tape. It didn't seem out of the ordinary, at least by King of the Hill standards. Then we got to the part where we wanted to see the ending. The usual stuff happened. Peggy and Luann trying to get away from Trip, with them tampering with the controls for the conveyor belt. Trip getting zapped in the head for being cured of his schizophrenia. Then what we saw after that was what Todd was talking about. Trip saw the spike coming down and was killed soon after. Drops of blood and brain matter spilled out onto the conveyor belt and onto Peggy and Luann. The two women seemed to be traumatized after witnessing a man being skewered to death right in front of them. However, it didn't seem to last long, as they were soon starting to talk about how this meant that Luann was now on her own woman or something. One final scene was a close-up of Tripp's mutilated corpse, to which it had just fallen off the conveyor belt, and it was nearly not as detailed as Todd had remembered it, but it stayed on the bloody remains for what felt like minutes on end, before cutting to the credits. After the episode ended, Todd removed the tape from the VCR and thanked us for watching it with them. My friends and I will never forget what we saw on that day. We have nightmares about how Tripp died and all the time, and I'm pretty sure Todd does too. But one question still remains. Who started the rumor about Tripp's corpse hanging in the background? The world may never know.